I'm married. We have 3 children. My youngest daughter is 8 years old, and I have a boy of 13 and a boy of 14. And they were all born in the Netherlands. And only 6 years ago, we decided to make Aliyah because we wanted to give our children the best life that we could do. And there's a lot of anti-Semitism in Europe, in the Netherlands. And we just promised the children to bring them to a safe place where they can be who they are, where they can be free without need to hide that they're Jews. And the only place where you can do it is in Israel. So we were looking for a community. We really wanted to go to a kibbutz because life in a kibbutz, it's like a big holiday. Of course, they need to go to school and they have we have our rules, but in general, their children are growing up so free outside nature. Kibbutz is like a really small village. You have big kibbutz as well. You have a kibbutz like 1,500 people, but our kibbutz is about 450 people, so it's a real small community. And for us, that was really important because in the Netherlands, we used to live in a big city where nobody knows each other. And we were really looking for make a change. So we came to Nachalos. We visited the community a year before we moved, just to see how it is, if we would fit in this community. And I was afraid to go there because I knew that it was next to the border with Gaza. But the moment I entered the kibbutz, we went through the yellow gate, I felt this is the place to be. This is home. This is where I want my children to grow up. And we decided to move. In 2018, we came to Nachalos. In 2019, after only a year living there, our house was direct hit by a rocket fired by Hamas. It exploded inside our living room, destroyed the whole living room, and we were inside our safe room connected to our house. So one thing was for sure, that a safe room is safe enough. It protects you. My children were traumatized. I was traumatized, of course. We never thought about going back to the Netherlands, but they went to therapy, a lot of therapy. And we thought if we can overcome this, we can stay, because this is the worst thing that can ever happen to people living close to the border. We had a lot of attacks, a lot of rockets, missiles. So every half a year, we knew that we had to run away from home, that we had to go to another place to be safe. My husband always stayed behind because he's responsible for the cows. He's managing the dairy farm. He's a farmer, dairy farmer. So he never came with us, and I always took my children. We knew that this was our life, but we got so much things back. 95, we always said 95%, but I don't think that it was 95% because we had a lot of rockets for the past 6 years, maybe before. But like say 90% of our time was like living in heaven. It was the best life. And the other percentage was hell. But when it was hell, it was really, really hell. If we had a rocket alert, we had like 5, maybe 10 seconds to bring yourself into a safe place. It's actually a woman's voice who's just calling Teva Adom, Teva Adom. It's Hebrew for red alert. Because before the war in 2014, it was a siren. But people got traumatized by hearing the siren, so they changed it. I don't know why they changed it, because either it's a siren or a woman's voice. It's both traumatizing. But anyway, we decided to stay. I was working in a visitor center, Netiv HaSara. It's a moshav, also on the border. And I was actually explaining to people from all over the world, and also from Israel, soldiers, teenagers, how it is to raise your children so close at the border, how it is to live under the constantly threats of Hamas and the Islamic Jihad. It was a beautiful project. It's called the Path to Peace. There was a big security wall which was there to protect the houses from direct shooting from the villages from out the Gaza Strip. And we were making a mosaic ceramic stones, and people were invited to write a wish on the stone for themselves, for Israel, for us. That didn't matter. And they glued the stone on the mosaic, and there were words, shalom, salam, peace, 3 languages, and it was faced to their side, because that was our message. That's what we wanted the people living on the other side know, that this is what we want. We want to live in peace. We had a big fence, security fence. And I always told everybody who came to visit, I said, you know, this fence is protecting us. It's concrete. It goes into the ground until water level. No one, no terrorist will ever be able to enter Israel from this side. Until the 7th of October. We had the first alert. We ran into our safe room. After 10 minutes, we got out of the room, and we didn't understand what happened, because it was so intense, so much more than we ever had. And after a few minutes, we got a message on our phone, WhatsApp, from a friend, actually a very close friend of Naomi and myself. And she said, I see Hamas. They're coming. They're coming to the kibbutz. Go into your house. Close the doors. Go in your safe room. And that's what we did. And we sat there. And luckily, we had electricity. We had a connection. I sent my sister on WhatsApp, and I said, I don't know what's happening here. And she's living in the Netherlands. But I said, just start to pray. And she opened the news on her television in the Netherlands. And she saw a video of one of the terrorists. They had body cams. And she saw that they were running in my garden, around my house. And the reason that they were there, because right behind our house was the weapon armory. And Hamas knew that that was the place where we used to store all our weapons. And they tried to break in, and they threw grenades. And it was all like 2 meters from my house. When we were in the safe room, we didn't know exactly what was going on. But suddenly my son, who took his phone, he's a 14-year-old boy, I think the phone is glued on his hand, because wherever he goes, he takes his phone. And he showed me a live stream video on Facebook from a family of our community who were kept hostage by Hamas terrorists. And then I realized that this was so much bigger than what was going on. And we saw a terrorist paragliding from their side to our side. We saw trucks driving in communities, not even so close to the border. So we knew that it was very bad. So we were in this room. We didn't have enough oxygen, because our safe room is 7 square meters. We were inside with 3 children, my husband, and even the dog was inside. The dog, she hadn't had time to do her morning walk, but she didn't bark one time. Even the dogs, even the babies, they knew that they had to be quiet. We don't know how, but they just knew. So we were in this room. We didn't have any water. We didn't have any food. We could not go to the toilet, so we just emptied some boxes, toy boxes for my daughter, which we used to pee on. And they were not even big enough, because we have a big family and big kids, so we had to use another box. We were sitting there until 4 o'clock. Just before 4 o'clock, we received a message from security that Hamas terrorists were dressed up as IDF soldiers, and that they were trying to get into houses by knocking on the door and pretend to be IDF soldiers. So by the time that we heard people outside, we didn't open the door, but we heard them opening the window, getting into our house, trying to open the door of the shelter. And the shelter, it's made to protect yourself from rocket fire, from incoming rockets. It's not made to keep terrorists outside. There's no lock inside, there's nothing. We were just holding with all the strength we had, we were just holding the handle so they could not come in. It took around 10 minutes till my neighbor called me and he said, Mirjam, you can open the door. It is the IDF, just open the door. So I opened the door. The first one I saw, a big soldier. I just fell in his arms and I started to cry, and I thought that we were rescued. And then he said, no, I'm sorry. you got a few minutes, take something to eat, take something to drink, but you need to go back because we have to check, we have to clear the whole community. And I said, okay, let's go back. We were able to get chargers for our phone because the battery was almost down. We got back to the room and we waited another 8 hours until 12 o'clock in the evening. And then the IDF came and then they said, you have 3 minutes, pack whatever you need, 3 minutes, go outside. We were walking inside a circle of IDF soldiers who were protecting us with their own lives. In the meanwhile, they were still shooting because terrorists were still on the community. And we walked to a house, to our neighbor house, from which I knew, because he's also a good friend, and his wife sent in our WhatsApp group that her husband was shot in the head. And we were walking to his house. And when we finally got there, we met the deputy of the head of security, and he's also a good friend, because that's what's happening if you're living in a small community. Everybody is your friend. And when he saw my husband, he started to cry. And my husband started to cry. And they're big eyes. And I never saw two big men hugging each other and crying. And then we found out that the head of our security of the kibbutz, that he was shot, that he was murdered. From there, they took us with a jeep to a bus. And this bus brought us to an army base in the south of Israel. And there we were waiting. And every bus was coming from Nachalos. We were just checking out who was coming out of the bus, who was still alive, who was not there, who was missing, who was murdered. And from this army base, they brought us to a kibbutz, Mirjam Reijne, in the north. And we have been there already 3 or 4 times because every escalation, that was our safe place to go. It's in the regional council, Megiddo. And that's how we came, the third partner, or do I need to say the 5th partner? Because we have Yokneam, Megiddo, Atlanta and St. Louis, Atlanta and St. Louis, and Nachalos. And they kindly adopted us. And they said that whatever we need, whatever we need that we could ask for, and that they promised us to support us for several years. And for us, because I haven't been back to Nachalos, I'm not ready to go back. I don't know if I ever can go back. But to know that the Jewish Federation is supporting us for a longer term, it's like a light at the end of the dark, dark road we have to go, because the war is still going on. We are still missing people. We are still grieving for the lost. There's no time to grieve because we're still in the middle. And to know that people are supporting us and that people are willing to help us, whatever we need, it's just a little light. And because of this light, we are able to go on. And that's what the Jewish Federation is doing for me. And I'm very, very thankful. And we need it. As a mother of teenagers, I am so afraid that my boys will go on the wrong path. Because they have a trauma. And they don't want to talk. And I can tell my son that he can cry. And because one of his friends and his whole family was murdered. But he doesn't want to cry. He said, crying is not bringing them back. So they keep everything inside. And they don't want to go to therapy. They don't want to talk with a therapist. But what they can do, also by the support of the Jewish Federation, they are going to, for just an example, surfing. They go rock climbing. They go mountain biking. And for them, it's just doing activities and sport. But in the meanwhile, there are psychologists, there are social workers who are there, who are talking with them. And they need it. They just so need it. They need to have the support. They need to know that they have somebody who is not going anywhere and who is always there if they ever want to talk. And that's so good to know. That it gives me really, that I can calm down a little bit and know they will be okay.